for the morning watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, understanding and observing the rules of American citizenship. And in the second watch, probing the parenting problem. Are we raising an antisocial generation? For our social media question, we ask, what has changed with how children are being raised today? We're asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I quote.
All right, today's I quote says, "Provocation doesn't make me ill-tempered. It only shows me how ill-tempered I am." And this one is from C.S. Lewis.
Okay, good morning, Jokan.
Good morning.
Here's how I'm seeing that quote. In other words, provocation has the ability to reveal who we really are inside.
For sure.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
Yeah, man. The first watch will be back after this break.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Don't let freshness ditch you when you need it the most. Wash your clothes with Downy Softener to keep dazzling everyone around you from day to night. Try Downy Softener now.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Toussaint. In light of President Donald Trump's new immigration and citizenship policies, many questions and concerns are being raised, and in some instances, unease and uncertainty have resulted. For example, a recent social media post claims that it is fraud to travel on a Jamaican passport if you are an American citizen. And there is much talk, about ending what is known as birthright citizenship. So in this, the first watch, we are seeking to better understand the rules of American citizenship. And in so doing, we have online Peter Malaguti, full professor of law at Massachusetts School of Law, and he's an attorney at law at Olson & Olson in the US of A. Good morning to you, Professor Malaguti.
Good morning, Dr. Toussaint. How are you this morning?
I'm well. So good to have you on with us, and thanks for joining us so early in the morning.
I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So, for the record, Professor Malaguti, based on the U.S. Constitution, of course, what makes one a citizen of the United States of America?
Well, there's essentially two ways to be a citizen of the United States, and it is not unique to the world. The United States has what's called birthright citizenship.
Hmm.
So, for example, myself, I was born in the United States. The moment I was born, I was a citizen of the United States.
Hmm.
And this is embedded in the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. It's the very first section in Section 1. And I'll just quote it quickly for you.
Hmm.
All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So in my case, I was born in the United States. I am a citizen. But you also heard that you can become a citizen by being naturalized in the United States. So
Hmm.
this, of course, is for my grandparents, for example, were citizens of the United States, but they came from a foreign country. They came from Italy. So they were not originally citizens, but they went through the naturalization process. They were over 18 years of age. They lived in the country for more than 5 years, and they met the other qualifications to become a citizen of the United States. So those are the two general ways that one can become a citizen of the United States.
Yes. And again, for the record, Professor Malaguti, are there any nuances or differences in U.S. law depending on how that citizenship is acquired? I mean, you spoke about naturalization vis-a-vis birth, in terms of the benefits, in terms of how you can operate as a citizen within the country of the state, the nation of United States. Um, are there any nuances or differences that are pointed out based on your understanding of the law?
Well, I would answer that there's not really supposed to be any differences between someone who is born in the United States and someone who has become naturalized in terms of everyday life.
Hmm.
In the Constitution, there is one big difference. In order to become president of the United States, one must have been a citizen by birth. So naturalized citizens cannot become president of the United States. And I'm sure you're probably, given the subject of the show, um, one thing I will talk about is the denaturalization process. There
Hmm.
is actually a way that the government can take away citizenship once it's given, but this only applies to naturalized citizens and not to birthright citizens. But for the most part, someone who's a naturalized citizen should be able to live and thrive in the country just as much as somebody who's born here.
And you mentioned about the denaturalization process. What
Yeah.
are some of the factors that would determine that denaturalization?
So denaturalization, until fairly recently, is a very rarely used process in the United States. But
Hmm.
Congress has passed laws. Congress is in control of naturalization, and it has passed laws allowing the government, by going to court, to try to denaturalize someone. And this is done almost always when someone has committed crimes, fairly serious crimes like treason and the like. And it also can be done if the person can be shown to have lied during the naturalization process, to have given false information in his or her application, and the like. And I would point out that, this rarely happens. People are vetted very well for citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
But under this current administration, there's actually a movement within the Justice Department. A memo came out on June 11th, this past June 11th, saying that one of the top priorities of the Justice Department is going to be to seek denaturalization of people. And it's quite frankly a scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, people who have come in, have been here for 5 years plus, have gone through the whole process, and it's not an easy process of being naturalized, now have to fear that if there is one little mistake on their application,
Mm-hmm.
or they committed, you know, a relatively minor crime that the Justice Department now determines to be more than a minor crime, that they may face the process of denaturalization. And I fear for a lot of citizens of the United States under that.
Is it that the Constitution does not go far enough in identifying those offenses that would constitute the reasons for denaturalization? Is it that it needed to go deeper, wider? Or what do you think?
So here's the technical nerdy answer to that, and I'll keep it as short and simple as I can. The
Mm-hmm.
Constitution is pretty vague in most things.
Mm-hmm.
But what the Constitution does in Article 1, Section 8 is give to Congress control over the naturalization process.
Oh.
And Congress acts by passing laws. And Congress has passed laws that make it pretty hard to denaturalize someone. And I'm not saying this as a political statement. I'm saying it as a matter of fact, based on the current administration's own documents. It obviously has changed the position of the country towards immigration and naturalization. And I think it's fair to say that the administration has bent the rules or stretched the rules that Congress has passed. And it's really up to the federal courts to rein that in, to reel that in. And we'll see if that happens.
Yes, and by your answer, are you sort of suggesting, intimating that there needs to be more specificity in this regard?
I think the specificity is there. Unless you're charged criminally, it should be very hard to denaturalize someone, and the laws are pretty clear on that. However, the statutes provide two ways to denaturalize someone. One is to bring a criminal charge against that person, and the person then is protected by the criminal laws. The government has to show beyond a reasonable doubt that the person has committed the crime and should be denaturalized.
Yes.
But the statute also allows civil denaturalization, which has a lower standard of proof. And this June 11th memorandum that the Justice Department has issued says right in it that the Justice Department is going to pursue civil denaturalization,
which could include speeding tickets and all of those things. Traffic.
Technically, it's not supposed to, but I would submit that when it comes to citizenship and immigration, the administration has not necessarily followed the law to the T. And it's up to the courts, as I mentioned, to put their thumb down and stop this from happening. So the lower courts have been willing to do that. We'll see if the Supreme Court is willing to do that.
Yes. Interesting stuff, Professor Malaguti. We have much more, I think, to discuss on this matter. We are now approaching a break. So after that, on the next side of this break, we'll hear much more from Professor Malaguti. Stay tuned.
Time on Love 101 is now 7:15 a.m.
It's more than a race. It's a launch pad. The New Testament Church of God 5K Run Walk to raise funds for 100 scholarships for students from primary to tertiary levels. Step out in faith. Make every stride count. It's the New Testament Church of God 5K Run Walk, Saturday, July 19 at 6:30 a.m. Starting point at the Emancipation Park. Register now at runningeventsjamaica.com. Call 876-967-4903 for more information. As the New Testament Church of God celebrates 100 years in Jamaica.
On the next episode of the Mailbox, we'll be focusing on the topic Man on a Mission. A man's mission is often driven by his purpose, values, and passion. Having a clear mission statement can help him stay focused and motivated on his journey. You are invited to join the conversation with our esteemed guest, Mr. Noel Keith Phillips, aka Uncle Keith, working with open air campaigners for 41 years. At 87 years old, he will be sharing about how he has stayed focused on his mission and disciplined himself to take consistent actions for Christ. That's Wednesday, July 16 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station, Love 101, the Mailbox Monday.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and this is the first watch. We're seeking to understand even more the rules of engagement in regards to American citizenship. And in so doing, we have online Professor Malaguti. That is Peter Malaguti. He's full professor of law at Massachusetts School of Law, and he's an attorney at law at Olson and Olson in the US of A. Still with us, Prof?
Yes, hi. Always
Great.
a pleasure to be with you, Dr. Toussaint.
Yes, sir. Now, in recent times, a while ago on the first half of this first half, in the program, we're talking about more so about the denaturalization process. Now, in recent times, I don't know if you can tell us more. What, in essence, has the U.S. president said and or done in relation to so-called birthright citizenship?
So the president has taken the position that he has the ability to move against citizens of the United States who were born here if if both of their parents are not legal immigrants in the United States.
Both.
So he would call these parents to be illegal aliens.
So if it's only one parent, what seems to be his stance on that matter?
So if one parent is legal, the child is here. His claim is that we have what they call anchor babies, where
Right.
people purposely come to the United States so their child will be born here
Right.
and be a citizen of the United States. And he wants to prevent that from happening. The Constitution, however, is clear. If you're born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, you are a citizen of the United States, regardless of.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry as well, Professor. But stick up in right there, because I think it is that clause that my understanding, that's where persons are veering towards to have this thing changed. The matter of subject to the jurisdiction thereof. What does that mean? Yeah, that seems to be the sticking point.
So the whole world who studies this knows what it means. It means that diplomats and the children of diplomats who are born in the United States cannot be United States citizens because they have so-called diplomatic immunity.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that, one of the consuls from Jamaica is in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
He or she is not subject to the criminal laws and civil laws of the United States in most circumstances. They have so-called diplomatic immunity. And
Right.
that's what the framers of the Constitution were talking about. The Trump administration has taken the position, quite wrongly,
Mm-hmm.
that what that means is that because they are not legal immigrants in the United States, they are subject to the jurisdiction of a different country.
Right.
And so that's what they're hanging their hat on. And there are many flaws with that argument. And just recently, a judge in the United States District Court for the District of New Hampshire issued a nationwide injunction in a class action saying that the Trump administration was incorrect in interpreting it that way.
And they're going to carry it even further up the ladder, eh?
Oh,
You think?
yes,
Yeah.
they are.
Yes.
And it's a fight that I think even the administration knows that it will eventually lose. Now, I'm not a politician. I don't know a lot about politics, but I believe the theory is that there's political capital in pursuing this with their base, and so I think that's why they're doing it. But I think even this very conservative and very friendly to the administration Supreme Court will look at the plain words of the 14th Amendment and ultimately decide that children born in the United States, regardless of the status of their parents, unless they're the children of diplomats, are
Mm-hmm.
in fact United States citizens.
Yeah. But are there not those? Well, I'm almost sure they are, because you mentioned the base a while ago. Persons who would argue that it's not the fact that these anchor babies, that concern has been around for decades. This perhaps is a way to address that, or another way to address that concern. How do you approach such an argument?
So the Constitution is clear that that is up to Congress. Article 1, Section 8 says that Congress has the power over immigration and naturalization, and Congress can pass laws. And our immigration system is in dire need of reform in this country. And Congress should, create a more workable system of immigration so that people who we're a country of immigrants. People who deserve to come here should be able to come here fairly easily. And those who are criminals and the like should not be allowed to come. But Congress has not, gotten together, I guess, politically to be able to create comprehensive immigration reform. But that would be the way it should be done, or at least envisioned by the Constitution.
Yes. In a nutshell, Professor Malaguti, what does the U.S. Constitution state in regards to dual citizenship?
So again, this matter is left to Congress, and the laws that Congress has passed and that the State Department follows or is supposed to follow is that dual citizenship for American citizens is fine. And there's two ways most countries do citizenship. One is called jus soli, which we've just been talking about,
Yes.
which is if you're born in the country, on the land of the country, you're a citizen. But the other is called jus sanguinis. And this can make you a citizenship based on your make you a citizen based on your ethnicity. So let me give you a personal example. My grandparents came to the United States from Italy, and I was born in the United States, so I'm a U.S. citizen. But Italy would allow me to obtain Italian citizenship based on being from the blood of my grandparents. And so I could obtain dual citizenship. So I could be a citizen of the United States and a citizen of Italy. And the United States does not have laws that prevent this. And so your listeners probably know that there are many Jamaicans who come to the United States, maintain their Jamaican citizenship as well as their United States citizenship. The State Department is supposed to allow this to happen. Again, we're living in turbulent times. I don't know where this is going to go.
And as you mentioned about turbulent times, they well in the preamble, mention was made of the claim that it is fraudulent to travel on a Jamaican passport if you are indeed a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
Is that really so? Is that false?
I'm going to answer that yes and no. And I looked this up. I specifically looked this up before the show.
Mhm.
So the State Department's position is this: you're allowed to have more than one passport if you're an American citizen. So in my case, I could get an Italian passport if I became an Italian citizen. What the State Department requires is that when you leave the United States and enter the United States, you use your United States passport. When you travel around the world, you can use either the United States passport or we'll say the Jamaican passport or the Italian passport. They don't care which passport you use when you're out of the country. But when you come back to America, you have to enter through customs with your American passport. That's the claim. Now, I also learned that there's no real remedy if you try to come back in using a foreign passport. They can't kick you out of the country or denaturalize you or anything like that. What they will do is hold you up in customs and give you a hard time, and take away a half a day coming back in. So there may have been specific instances where people tried to come into the United States using, maybe quite frankly, accidentally using a foreign passport when they should have pulled out their American passport. That might have led to these claims. But it's technically not, the United States technically can't say it's fraud for you to use an American citizen to use a foreign passport. And quite frankly, I know that many Americans who have other passports travel around Europe and other places using the European passport.
Passports, right?
Yeah.
So that claim is in itself fraudulent, perhaps.
But again, we live in turbulent times, and maybe people are getting a hard time by customs agents. It doesn't mean that the customs agents are doing what the law requires.
I think it's an era of uncertainty, Professor Malaguti.
It is.
Yes, you just don't
It
know
is.
what is right anymore, and you have to be careful, super cautious.
And I worry. I have a lot of friends who are naturalized citizens. I have a lot of friends who are here on so-called green cards, and I worry for them when they leave the country and want to come back in. I think the current presidential administration is trying to make a statement about immigration, and it's trying to be as strong as it can, and I think it's creating hardships for individuals, and it concerns me.
Yes, and this concerns all of us really, because of what has been happening, and it's all turbulent times that we're living in. We want to thank you so very much for joining us, Professor Malaguti. You have informed us, you have instructed us, and you have given us insight in regards to these important matters. Have a safe and productive day, sir.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you, Dr. Toussaint.
Bless
You
you
have a
too.
great day. You have
You
a
too.
great day. Thank
You
you.
too. Bye. Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
Start your journey with a JN Small Business Loan with small business loans as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million. The time by JN Small Business Loan is
Just about 7:31.
Recycling Partners of Jamaica. Yeah, we got to make a change, and we have to do it now, can't wait for later. We put plastic in its place, and we all can agree that will be safer than in the gullies and in the drains. Recycling Partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place. Well, I say no matter about your class or status or title, got to be responsible and recycle. Yes, we have talk about plastic buckle boat. You have to make sure say you're the right type to. So look for the triangle with the one or two. Well, I don't matter could a yellow or blue. You have to just make sure them empty, collect them plenty, recycling revenue. So listen up, Jamaica. I'm saying it's time to make a change. Recycling Partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place, and we all can agree that will be safer than in the gullies in the every veins. Recycling Partners of Jamaica. We put plastic in its place.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Always a good move when you're moving with Grace.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Observer, disaster class. I guess that's instead of master class. Disaster class. Windies swept by Aussies in Test series end with historic batting crumble. Oh boy. Also in the Observer, 48-hour curfew extended in sections of Richmond, St. Mary. And then in the Gleaner, motor vehicle registration certificates to be issued electronically starting July 21. And then finally in the Gleaner, Misemiago spoiler. Spouse of woman killed in Raytown turns from birthday plans to funeral arrangements. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll share some of the feedback from our social media question. What has changed with how children are being raised today? What has changed with how children are being raised today? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and the YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
Jamaica, get ready for a first-of-its-kind celebration. Stomp, the all-inclusive gospel party, Friday, August 29, 6 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. at Devon House East Lawns, featuring DJ Chinny and more. Enjoy powerful worship, uplifting performances, plus all-inclusive food and drink, all in one unforgettable day. Admission $13,000 general. Children 10 and under $5,000. Get your tickets online at touchstonelink.com. Stomp 2025, where worship meets celebration.
Tell them cut the plastic.
See ya, our one country we have, and we have to preserve it for future generation. The government had to feed them part with phase 4 of the ban on single-use plastic. That mean me won't get my lunch in a plastic container, and me so I stop use certain cosmetic personal care items. Boy, big changes. But we want me pick them to enjoy this country, so me go all in a phase 4. Support the ban.
A message from the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
On the next episode of the Mailbox, we'll be focusing on the topic Man on a Mission. A man's mission is often driven by his purpose, values, and passion. Having a clear mission statement can help him stay focused and motivated on his journey. You are invited to join the conversation with our esteemed guest, Mr. Noel Keith Phillips, aka Uncle Keith, working with open air campaigners for 41 years. At 87 years old, he will be sharing about how he has stayed focused on his mission and disciplined himself to take consistent actions for Christ. That's Wednesday, July 16 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station, Love 101, the Mailbox Monday.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Jokal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: what has changed with how children are being raised today? Jokal?
All right, so Cherry in Spanish Town says, motherhood and parenting skills doesn't come with a handbook, but there are persons and situations we can learn from or do better or worse in somewhat, and also change in some areas. So better parenting skills with the help of some organizations, and for those who remain, all right, so this is kind of jumbled up, but what I'm getting from it is that society plays a big role, and there are areas which lack of value, but we as parents need to stand and teach our children manners, good life, long values, and attitudes, also good characters. Edna from Montego Bay sent a voice note. Let's hear from her.
Good morning, Morning Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listeners and staff. A lot of change in the way children are raised today because we're living in a microwave society now where parents are so busy that social media, gazette, etc. are raising the children. Gone the days when a village would raise a child or children. No, it's everybody doing their own thing. You understand? Different generation, different strategy. I'm telling you, moral has been breaking down. I don't know where this world is going. Let us continue to pray for our children and pray up the parents them also, because parenting skill or learning, we did not born with them. We didn't, they don't come with a manual. We just parents trying their best. Some leave the children them to their own way. Just that, and it is so sad.
And those are our responses. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we now segue to the second watch. Stop winging it. That was the reported suggestion in last Sunday's Observer by the CEO of the National Parenting Support Commission to parents in light of the reported rise in antisocial behavior among children in Jamaica today. And in this, the second watch, we will be therefore probing the parenting problem as much as possible with Kesia Carr, CEO of the National Parenting Support Commission, and Arnold Kelly, who is both a father and a grandfather, as well as the former general manager of NCU Radio. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning to you and your listeners.
Great. Good to have you both with us. I begin with you, Kesia Carr. If the aforementioned report is accurate, what did you mean by the phrase "stop winging it"? And how significant is the rise in antisocial behavior among children today?
All right. So overwhelmingly, when we speak to parents or when we interact with them, we hear there are no manuals on parenting, so we're just trying to do what we can. And so it really was a call to parents to say there are actually many manuals, and there is a whole lot of information that is available that can be used, that can aid in your child rearing to get better outcomes. Because once you're better able to understand what is happening along the ages and stages of your child's development, then you're better able to put in the protective factors or corrective measures to ensure that by the time your child is at that stage, you'll be equipped with information on how to help and guide, and just ensure that your child is better navigating that particular period of his or her development.
So winging it means what? I mean, in regular parlance.
It means that it's just a trial and error. It's not based on a practice that is evidence based. It is not based on your access to literature on parenting that exists, by the way. There's a whole lot of information in Jamaica and across the world. You're just trying it. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, and by the way, the frustration levels are very high. So you're trying something and you're not necessarily consistent with it. You give up very easily. So you're winging it in the sense that you're not accessing any information or support. You're trying to do it on your own, and it's a trial and error situation. And we're saying that perhaps it's a trial and error that has led us to this place. You don't have to wing it. There is information that's solid, evidence-based, well-researched on what children need, what happens at different stages of their development, how you can build your own capacities so you can understand your child and that period of his development a little better.
Interesting. Arnold Kelly, as a father and grandfather, what are your concerns in this regard?
All right. So I grew up at a time when it was, we knew it to be normal for, one of the first things we learned as children was that who can't hear will feel. Who can't hear will feel. And truth be told, yes, we got some wicked beatings as children. However, there was also the situation where parents had the power to just look at you and straighten you out. What we find happening today is that I am seeing where the look doesn't seem to work as much these days as it used to work back then. So the question is, what's the connection between the belt and the look? Because at the time, the parent wielded the power with the belt. But many times they didn't have to pull the belt, because once they looked, you knew the belt was coming next, and so you would straighten up. These days, we're seeing where children are more, they're seeing a challenge between a parent and a child, a conversation between a parent and a child may easily just work out to look like a fight between two people who consider themselves peers. Instead of a voice of authority and someone who is subject to that authority. So that's one of the concerns, because we don't see that line. The line is not there. It's not that visible anymore. Other than that, we talk. I hear you mentioning winging it. I think a lot of that comes back to the fact that many people just wing it. Because growing up, to be honest, I don't recall hearing anything about parenting seminars or anything like that back then. And we have more of those now.
Okay, Tell you
you
what,
know,
Pastor Kelly.
you
Very
ask
interesting
yourself.
stuff both of you are raising. We are up on a break. We'll be right back.
The time by Grace Could Move is
7:45.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
See so you can make the park, travel park, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And this is the second watch. We are probing the parenting problem. And the question we're asking, are we raising an antisocial generation? And in so doing, we have online Arnold Kelly, who is a father and grandfather and former general manager of NCU Radio, as well as Casey Carr, CEO of the National Parenting Support Commission. Before the break, Arnold Kelly, you were talking about the concerns you have, which include whether the belt or the look, whether they are still applicable today and working today or actually used today. Please continue, sir.
Right. So, so many people, for instance, we reference the from the word that says about sparing the rod and spoiling the child, right? Well, actually, it's an adage, sparing the rod and spoiling the child, and we swear by it, and we live by it, and we grew up that way. And anybody who says, "Hey, there's something wrong with that," it seems as if you are flying up in the face of God, so to speak. Mm-hmm. However, what we've found is that, research has shown that, yes, children are affected even into their adult years by the actions of their parents, especially when this is taken out of context. And so over the years, growing up, I have softened my approach to the idea of the use of the belt. Yes, in the sense that I have seen for myself too many times where punishment is meted out in anger. And many parents, you are upset. Yes, you are upset about what a child has done. And you decide that, okay, I'm going to deal with the matter, and you deal with it in anger. And so you actually, in Jamaica, we have a way of saying, even though it doesn't involve taking the life, what you say, you murder the picnic, with the belt. Yeah. And at the end of the day, this is going to have some serious effects this will have serious effects on a child. And for the most part, I believe that many of us who grew up back in my time, yes, and it's not hard to tell how far we're talking about, who were children in the 70s and so on. Yes. We got that. And even through high school, I remember doing something, and believe me, until this day, I am 100% in agreement with my parents for this one, because it was like unpardonable. And I got a whopping in the middle of the square. My father took out his belt the Sunday afternoon, people standing in the square. That's a few days or weeks after I passed common entrance. So I'm being celebrated. And I did something that I knew was wrong. And my father came and met me in the square and gave me a whopping right there. And believe me, I will tell you that it worked, in the sense that I knew from then, look here, I will never, ever go down that road again. Right? Yes. But the question of how it may have affected me in terms of, mentally and otherwise. While this was not something that was thought about even back then, yes, it did have an effect because, there for weeks you pass people and you know that they saw you getting a beating in the square, and so you shamefully pass, right? So some will argue, but was that positive or negative?
Yeah. I'm happy you segue to that because I don't know what Casey Carr has to say on that. Is that, I mean, in today's world and Jamaica, is that regarded as child abuse? I mean, this whole thing about spearing the rod and spoiling the child.
It is child abuse. It is child
So he
abuse.
was abused. Arnold Kelly was abused by his
He was abused.
Okay.
Parents are in Jamaica, and rightly so, parents are revered and respected generally. But especially mommy. It's not easy for us to admit when our parents have done something wrong. It's not an easy thing. But in that case, it certainly was child abuse. I want to go back to something he said about the fact that there were not parenting seminars back then and so on.
Before you go there, though, Kesaka, why regard it as child abuse? I mean, his father sought to discipline him.
By definition, but discipline is not beating.
Huh?
Discipline is not beating,
But does it exclude it?
The misconception.
Does it exclude beating?
That discipline is beating.
Does it exclude beating?
Discipline. It should. It should exclude anything that abuses a child or threatens his total well-being. So yes, there might have been a feeling of justification, depending on what the infringement was. I don't know what it is that he did, but there would have been other ways to correct such a behavior without resorting to that kind of punishment. And just listening to the word, I think we're such a society that we're so hinged to that thing called punishment that people should feel pain. It shows up in so many ways in our society. And it's something that we're going to have to re-engineer. We need to find a way to break that part of our psyche that tells us that everything we do, if it's not hard and if there's not the pain attached to it, whether emotional or mental, we don't feel as if we're getting through or we're achieving a desired goal. And that is something that maybe for another conversation, but it's something that I think I have a preoccupation with, especially of late. So a simple example, you go to a particular institution for a service, and if you're not spending 4 hours or 5 hours in there for a simple service, it's almost as if it can't happen. And the unnecessary rigor. Sometimes it's a situation where you just needed to dot an I and you're sent back to start all over again, This idea of punishment, we need to move away from it. But I wanted to get back to something he said about that back in the day, we did not have structured parenting education sessions and so on. But what you had, I think, guiding us then was a consensus on some, if not all, in a general way, moral principles. What were the things that we could agree on as a community? Because the idea of community was very strong in Jamaica at one time. Okay? So you were not necessarily going to sessions that were formally structured, but you had a consensus in your community as to what were the principles on which you're going to raise your children. And where you were unclear, there were persons in the community who were regarded with high esteem. The schoolmaster, that's what he was called, the preacher in the community, were people you could go to for counsel, and other elders in the community. We relied heavily on the Bible. Train up a child. Training means coaching and mentoring and giving opportunities for error, because there's no training that does not include error. And by virtue of the growth process, errors are a part of that learning curve. You must make errors in order to learn. So you learn this.
Yeah.
What we're seeing is that there has been a deviation from that. I was with a funeral, for example, recently, and I thought the pastor did well. But I wondered where the men were. They had attended the funeral, but they were right across the road at a bar.
Mm.
So the churches are not as filled up as we think they are and could be. And parenting, education, information, people were finding that people are wanting the information. The information exists in different spheres, and maybe they're not called parenting seminars, but there's information available through different media for persons who have the mind to find it. We want to say to parents that, look, the antisocial behaviors that your children are exhibiting, some of them are along the growth path. It's what children do. However, we do have information so that you can anticipate these behaviors and then know what strategies you could employ to ensure that even as your children are erring, you're guiding them and you're explaining to them not just what the errors are, but the ramifications, because the recovery from those errors might be harder in 2025 as opposed to years gone by when you didn't have things like social media and so on.
And persons
I
need
want
to
to give you a
access.
simple example.
Yeah, quickly though,
Right.
Miss Carr,
So
we are up on
I
time.
got a call. I'll go as quickly as possible. I got a call from a parent who said her child was out of control. And when I asked her what does out of control mean, she said that it's a 6-year-old and the child went to the market with her and saw something in a basket and was picking them up. And she had told the child not to touch anything. But she herself admitted to touching the same thing she had told her child not to pick up. And as a 6-year-old, she described the things as pretty, which means that they might have been floral or brightly colored. A 6-year-old would be interested in something that's brightly colored and floral and would not be able to understand if it is so hazardous for me, why are you picking it up? Because they learn through modeled behavior. Yet the mother said the child is out of control.
Right.
We probed some more, realized she had lost her job. And so the frustration really had nothing to do with her 6-year-old who thought something in the basket was pretty. But the fact that she was frustrated that because she lost her job. And so
You're loud and clear, Casey Carr. I want to bring back in Arnold Kelly. We're up on the time is up on us. You want to respond to anything that was said earlier, Arnold
Yes.
Kelly?
I think well, while I do believe I think I will disagree with her in that I do believe that there's a time and place where you might need to I guess I don't want to talk about beating the way my father used to lay it on, right? But at the same time, I would rather know that I slap my child on the hand and that action would prevent them from stepping out into the street to be hit by a car. I mean, just using an example there.
It was not abuse you're saying when you did that or when your father did.
No, but I do believe when you do it and your anger comes out in it, then definitely that's abuse. There has to be some level of understanding. And the truth is, I think that most people who say it shouldn't happen at all, it is because there is no way to draw a proper line to say, okay, this is where you start and this is where you stop, and this is what is considered too much. And if you don't have that kind of measure, then the easiest thing to do is to say, don't do it at all.
We end up throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Where does it stop when the slap on the hand doesn't end? Doesn't prevent the behavior. So that you give an example of a child being slapped on the hand to prevent a child from walking in the street. But what happens when that doesn't happen? Then it becomes a fist. And does it make the injury to the child any less because it was a slap as opposed to a fist?
Arnold Kelly, quick response.
Well, let me just say and say it another way. Use another example. I would rather to be the one to slap the child on the bottom than to end up having a situation where the police is the one who has to be doing the correction
Got to leave it there,
10 years down the
Kelly.
road.
Got to leave it there, Arnold Kelly and Casey Akar. Thank you very much. Interesting discussion. More on none, more on none. Have a safe and productive day.
All right. God bless.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint, returning you to Love in the Morning.
Truth is, you can live life to the fullest with HIV. This time signal is brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The time is
8:01 a.m. and you are now invited to listen to Forward in Faith, brought to you by the